Well, hey, everybody, you may have been gaslit into accepting unethical practices from your trusted healthcare system. We are your whistleblowing shrinks, Dr. Teralyn and therapist Jenn, and you have landed on the Gaslit Truth Podcast. And today we've got a special guest that's here for us, Sarah TRUBE. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hey, guys.
I said your last name right.
Yes.
Good day. We got this. If any of you are watching YouTube right now, Terry looks a little crisp.
Like a
She's a-
moth to the flame, I said.
The
So,
flame. Hey, look how you brought the flame pun in. Look at
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Flame,
I like that, right?
flame
It's
on
pretty
right
flame
here.
on.
Okay. All right, everybody. We've got Sarah here. I'm going to introduce her. Once upon a time, everyone, Sarah was a successful alternative healthcare professional in a career that she really loved. And she was helping others heal through medical and manual massage therapy and was enjoying life. And in August of 2023, that world was altered when she had a stroke and her dominant side was affected by paralysis, which was brought on by a healthcare system's unethical practices of gaslighting, abuse, neglect, and corruption. She was later diagnosed with FND, which is functional neurological disorder, which is a rare and complex form of PTSD. FND disrupts how the brain and the body communicate, and they affect the nervous system's ability to send and receive signals. And some fun facts here, according to the U of Birmingham, Alabama, over 300,000 Americans live with FND. Her symptoms include chronic pain, sensory issues, vision problems, slurred speech, stroke-like episodes, tardive dyskinesia, anxiety, tremors, spasms, panic attacks, blackouts, and more. There's no cure for this, and the future is uncertain for her. So, despite these challenges, though, Sarah is determined to share her story, to raise awareness, to debunk the misconceptions, and advocate for anyone else who has FND, to bring hope and understanding to the people that are affected. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hey. I bring the whole kitchen sink.
Yes. Yeah. All of it. The shit's rolling
I'm
downhill and you got it all. And we're at the bottom of the hill ready to catch all of it. Like, this is
Yeah.
what's happening. Mhm.
This malpractice, unethical stuff needs to stop. And it's affecting everybody worldwide. Not just me. Not nationwide. It's worldwide. And so I'm going to go ahead and kind of bring up my stuff to kind of tell my story and kind of go from there. So I've suffered from PTSD probably, let's see here, probably about a decade. That kind of stemmed from a family member who attempted suicide. I had to, save their life basically and call 911, do the whole shebang with that. And then I didn't start seeking mental health in probably about 3 years. Fight or flight, constant, triggers and stuff. I thought I could manage it. So then I was like, I need to seek help. And about that same time, I was like, I need to maybe make a change in my career, do a little less physical work. And with medical massage therapy, you deal with people's pain and mental. So I thought, I don't really want to go into school for chiropractic, and I don't want to go in for physical therapy. That's usually the younger generation, because about that time I was 35-ish, somewhere around there, and I was like, I need to slow down. So I thought it was a good idea to go back to school for psychology. And
Oh, that's your first mistake
Whoops.
right there.
I know.
Man, we understand. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We got you.
Where were you guys?
You know what? Back then we didn't get
We
it
were
either.
in school probably.
We wouldn't have been able to help you then. Like that took us a while to figure out.
That instantly opened a can of worms. Yeah. But I also went back to school because I wanted to be like my mom, who was a psychology double major in psychology and teaching. And I love kids, but, teaching, I don't want to be a teacher either. So, and then another family member of mine was going to the same school for nurse practitioner. And so I think about that time, we were going to probably graduate about the same time. And I thought it was cool because my siblings are 15, 13, and 8 years age gap. And so I thought it was a good idea to graduate from the same school because I've never had that experience, obviously. So it started out with our local mental health psych hospital, and they had the programs, and so I was like, okay, outpatient, let's try this. I was more or less expecting just group therapy, talking to other local people about their problems, and then, with, that it's kind of a psychosocial thing. So, and my family member that attempted went to this place back in 2015. So, so I was like, okay, let's go. And instantly they wanted to put me on lithium. I want to say lithium and then Visceral.
Do you remember, I'm just curious, like, do you remember how you were presenting at that time that lithium was the offer for you? Like what did they see in you, if you
Right.
wouldn't mind, sharing that, if you can recall?
This bipolar disorder, anxiety. I don't think they even saw the PTSD, even though it was like written
That's why you
on.
were there.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
So that, and then
So did you start, Sarah? Did you start that? Did you start taking the lithium?
yeah, and
Okay.
instant, the visceral, I think it was more the visceral, I felt suicidal.
Okay.
And so I was like, I literally was wrapped in a sheet, and I was like, okay, this group therapy is tomorrow, and I got to make it to tomorrow. I even, called crisis center, and I was like, I feel like bugs are crawling. It was horrible. And so I saw the nurse practitioner, and um, I don't know how we got into the. I kind of knew that I was hypersensitive to medication because, birth control, um, opioids, it didn't matter. Those were the two main things that, looking back, that I noticed that I was having, reactions to medication. Um, but even before that, um, looking way back when I was first diagnosed with epilepsy, I was also put on Paxil. And then before that, I had been taking Adderall for about 4 years. I was first dealing with psychiatric, not to this extent, when I was about 10 years old. So this all started when I was premenstrual. I started my period. Little did I know that I was uh, had a septate uterus and all these rare malformation and stuff like that. So
none of this stuff was uncovered for you. It was all just deemed
yeah,
psychological with a pill as the response.
yep. And then in that era, school got involved with, oh, she's not paying attention in school. She's, sleeping in class. So then there was no IEP. There was no, basically, your teacher set all the kids with the learning disabilities, and then they would, schedule time to, work with us. But we basically sat out to the side, and we were all recommended to be on Adderall and psych drugs, and so you were sitting with these kids that were falling behind, and so uh, so basically segregated, because we had learning disabilities or different things. So
if we look at Sarah, what you were just talking about, just to kind of wrap this here, when you were taking the medications that you were talking about previously, when you're taking that lithium, what year was that? Where are we time frame wise?
that was in 2018.
18. Okay. All right. So between 18 and then 2023, which is when you had your stroke. Okay.
Yep.
Fill us in on that gap. Give us the version of that. What was going on during that time that led up to this stroke? Your truth with that.
I was in and out of the same mental hospital. 2018, I tried it, and then once you were done with the 7 to 10 day treatment, they kept, trying different things, and then all of a sudden, well, we're going to have to discharge you because we can't seem to figure out, medications. And so I basically got shoved under the rug because, oh, you go to this other facility and talk to a therapist, and so that kind of got lost. And insurance was a issue as well, and then they finally decided to just keep me on trilipitol, which was, I've been on trilipitol since 1999 when it first came out, for the seizures. And I was like, okay, cool, you know, I've got bipolar, which runs in our family, and then I feel safe to take trilipitol. But here's the thing, when I was on trilipitol originally, it was the name brand. Well, now with insurance, Medicaid, now you can only access the generic, and I noticed a difference in, you know, the two drugs, the coloring, and then that ventured in, okay, I don't notice any difference. This is starting to make me spin out and have these anxiety attacks. And then I was having trouble getting a psychiatrist outside of this hospital, getting, you know, second opinion basically. And then because I am on Medicaid, and then I didn't have the money to fork over, you know, $300 or more for private, you know, psychiatrists. So 21, that was for kind of a different purpose, but they kept pushing medications. And I think that was the time that I was on Seroquel, which made me have the side effects of blood pressure.
Seroquel? So now you're psychotic now?
Yeah, they yeah.
Like nothing to see here, or just suddenly psychotic. No reason though. There's no reason.
Yeah.
And still taking the other drug at the same time, the trilipitol, like these were being the generic form. Okay.
Yep.
So you've got polypharmacy being stacked here on you, different drugs being given to you.
And then I've literally taken about 33 that I'm very severely interactive to.
33 different drugs.
Yeah, since probably about 2018, but even a little bit before that. But that was long time ago.
Sure. So do you? I'm wondering, because you're making your way through your timeline. So now we're in like 2021, 2022. We're getting closer to when this stroke occurred. Okay.
Yeah. And then so then 2019, I was on another trilipitol, was always still going to be a thing because of the seizures. And then I forget, I went to this other psych hospital because unfortunately I attempted, and I literally was there for like about 7 to 10 days, which is the average, and I literally saw 7 different doctors. And Haldol, they put me on the full maximum dose of trilipitol, which
Well, it
that
sounds like they were trying to chemically restrain you so
Were
that
you
you wouldn't hurt
yeah.
yourself. Yeah,
Were
that's
you
what I'm thinking.
were you
Mhm.
actively having seizures?
no, I wasn't.
Okay. I'm just want to clarify that because this is the seizure medication
They
that you had been on for many, many, many years. So
they
they just keep
Mhm.
upping the dose.
basically saw the trilipitol. Oh, you need to be on this. I was trying to get them to talk to my neurologist,
Okay.
and my neurologist was like, whatever, you're in a psych hospital. Why are you calling me? And then they wouldn't call. It was just a mess. And then they basically, okay, you're discharged. We can't seem to help you.
Oh,
And
so then you were, of course, labeled unhelpable,
yeah,
right? Like, even though the damage was likely because of all the stacking of pharmacology,
yeah.
right?
And
The
they put me
stacking.
on Tylenol, and
And
then
yeah, and then the chemical restraining, and then, the story is really interesting in the fact that, you went in for trauma, likely PTSD, you were immediately diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So from that point forward, it seems like you were treated as a hardcore psychiatric patient,
Yep.
to the point of being chemically restrained and then labeled unhelpable because none of it was working. As a matter of fact, if you think about your story, it was causing you to be worse and worse and worse to the point of trying to take your own life, which is a common thing. It's a common side effect. And I'm going to guess that nobody ever put that together for you, that this could have been a result of polypharmacy. So here we are working our way up towards this stroke. And if you could go ahead and get to that part of the story, let's
uh,
kind of jump ahead a little.
in
Mhm.
July of 2023, I belly flapped on the sidewalk. Went to urgent care. Mostly thought I scuffed up my knees. The doctors didn't even think about, head trauma, even though I was just like, I might have some, but life goes on. Um, and yeah, and then 2 months later, I'm on this crazy, fucked up roller coaster. I tried every coping skill known to man, from going to bed at 11 to um, trying to reduce my workload to you name it. I tried it. Working out more, in pool, um,
Yeah. All the lifestyle stuff, right?
all the
All of it.
lifestyle.
Yep.
And that night, crazy enough, my therapist that I saw probably no more than a year prior came down the stairs. Her daughter was like, oh, why are you crying? And my mom helps, with people that are sad. And this person came down, no acknowledge, no um, message, cell phone, do you need help? Because obviously she had her kids, and she drove off, and I'm spinning. I'm in the psychosis. I don't have any clue how to dial 911, nobody to help me at this point. So I somehow got to the psych hospital, which is closer to than the hospital, and the phone didn't work outside. It was locked because God forbid, it was 6 o'clock and we have to lock up the hospital. That should have been open 24/7 with a receptionist. And I think I stood there for probably 20 minutes. Got admitted pretty quick, and my blood pressure, I was trying to get my blood pressure to stay low as much as possible. Sat there probably, the typical 3-6 hour wait. And then talked to this tech, and by about bedtime, my blood pressure was stupid high, the stroke high, and that nurse for 45 minutes, you've been here before, you know, you need to
Yeah.
stop crying, and I was like, I need to get on my meds for the day. I haven't taken it, because,
So you're actively having a stroke during this time, Sarah?
not yet, not yet.
Okay.
My blood pressure was
It
sky
was
high.
ramping up. Mm-hmm.
It was getting you there. Okay.
Yeah, and so this nurse for 45 minutes is like verbally, mentally abusing me, and not, you know,
Well, she was dismissing you as a typical psych patient,
Yeah, she was,
right?
yeah,
looking at your
So you
record
don't have
going,
any,
yep,
yeah, you
yep,
don't have any health problems. This is all
yep,
psych. You're a
yep, you
frequent
are your
flyer.
record.
yep,
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
yep. So I was like, fuck this. I'm gonna go to try to lay down, try to not have a stroke. And I wish at that point that I could call, 911. I didn't think about it until later. And then we had a patient that caused a scene, was slamming doors for 2 nights, and they were going to blame that patient and that incident on that patient, for why I was having FND or conversion. At that point, it was just conversion disorder. And then, because they slammed the doors and then caused another 2 patients PTSD and to have a seizure, and then they sent those patients to the hospital. About Sunday is when that started the stroke, and I was like, they put me on ziprasidone and doxepine, for sleep and anxiety, and then I was also on triliptal, and totally stripped me off of Vraylar, which I had been on for about 3 months prior. And that with Vraylar, I was spinning and having these little issues where I was like, I feel like I'm gonna fall. I feel like I'm gonna have the same symptoms as when I was on Effexor. Effexor was back in 2005-ish. And so I was having like these seizure feelings, but I never fell until July. Basically was going to lose my job because I was like, I need to get mental health services or something because something ain't right with this Vraylar. So back to and then the next day I was like, I'm having numbness in my fingers. I'm biting my tongue.
Mm.
And then later that day, I started noticing my face would droop. And I'm sitting there talking, and all of a sudden, I stroke out. And they dismissed me again, checked my blood pressure finally, and it was stroke high. She dismissed me again. And she's like, well, maybe you're stressed out and maybe you need to get some fresh air. Come back and see me in 45 minutes. And 45 minutes later, I had the stroke and
Mm.
off I
You
go.
had all these leading up symptoms.
Yeah. And
Was it dismissed as the conversion disorder? Is that what they were dismissing it as?
yeah, I went to now I wasn't diagnosed until I went to the rehab and
Diagnosed with stroke? Is that what you're talking about?
diagnosed with conversion disorder. I went to a rehab
Okay.
clinic that did more unethical and
Mm. So just to take a pause for a second, Sarah, for those of you that are listening, if you don't know too much about what conversion disorder is, I think it's
Thank
a
you.
label you don't hear too much
Mhm.
about, but it's essentially like neurological symptom disorder is kind of what it's called, but it's it's coined a mental illness, everybody. Mental illness where someone might have physical symptoms, somebody like that can't be explained, they're saying, by like a medical or a neurological basis, right? So it's put on somebody as like a mental illness. It can cause issues to movement, sensations, things like that. So they're misdiagnosing, mislabeling here when there really truly was a significant amount of neurological problems occurring,
now
and medical conditions occurring.
conversion disorder has been outdated in the DSM-5 book since 2013, I do believe.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It's one of the I don't want to say a scapegoat diagnosis, but damn, it's one of the diagnoses you put on somebody when you are a provider and you're like, oh, I've looked at everything. It must be in their head.
It reminds me of
Malinger.
fibromyalgia in
Yeah.
some way.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
So,
It's basically the new fibromyalgia.
yep. Yeah. So
Mhm.
anyways, okay. So I wanted to just say that in case people that are listening don't know what that is, what that term is. So here you had some very legitimate medical conditions that were occurring, likely as a result of a misdiagnosis and polypharmacy and all kinds of shit dumped into your body forever and ever and ever in the presence of healthcare providers, and you are there. You are not doing well, asking for help, continue to get dismissed, end up having a stroke, then right in front of them, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
And so I get whisked off. Um, and then in the middle of the night, I get transferred 3 hours away. I'm begging for, I spent a week in the unit for stroke, bird watch, and then I was begging them for mental health services because I'm like, at this point, I wanted to safely taper off this medication. And the psychiatrist came in. He never told me his name. My doctor for those 3 weeks was like, you need to go back and introduce yourself. And then they would not give me a hand splint. They would not give me a sling. I didn't get my AFO, which is a leg brace, until it was a souvenir for, yay, completing rehab. They gave me somebody else's medication, had a seizure, coded. They lied to my sister, who is my power of attorney, and a nurse practitioner at the sister hospital. And told them that I was just having anxiety.
Wouldn't you have anxiety if you just had a stroke? I think I would have a little bit of anxiety too. Like that, to me, that makes sense that you would have some anxiety here. I keep going in my brain, I keep going, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so it's like all these people in these psychiatric spaces are only looking for psychiatric problems. And that's the siloed view of psychiatry and psychology, to not look outside of the psychological or psychiatric issues into medical issues. And so I just kept thinking, like, yeah, when you're a psychiatric hammer, everything looks like a psychological nail. And so they're going to keep pounding the nails and keep dismissing the actual physical or physiological issues, which is what happened to you even after a goddamn stroke. Like, you're still a psychiatric patient even though you just had a stroke. And how old were you when you had this stroke?
39.
A 39-year-old woman has a stroke, and you don't expect them to be anxious or depressed or traumatized or anything. Like, to me, that would be a typical response to a stroke.
They didn't even tell me until the day before discharge that, oh, good luck. It's all in your head, or psychological, basically. And this is conversion disorder. But then I'm like, you deny me of mental health services for 3 weeks. And you didn't do any spinal tap. And I'm like, there's more to this, you know?
So Sarah, because we've got only less than 10 minutes here. I want to ask you a question, because this is kind of like the bigger picture of what you live with now. So you were given a diagnosis of functional neurological disorder. That came, okay. You were telling us, as a result of some of this now, for you, what this looks like is vision issues and slurred speech and tardive dyskinesia and anxiety. Like, what do you live with now? What does your world look like now from this, Sarah?
I still have seizures, the tardive dyskinesia, slurred speech, tics, akathisia, pain. My pain levels have increased from before all this. My pain was like 3, 4, and now it's like 6, 7 on a daily, 24/7. I'm physically crashing. Anytime I overexert, causes an episode. You name it, I've seen it. I've dealt with it. I've hit my head. I've fallen. Anytime I talk to medical professionals now, I have episodes. And then I'm carted off to the hospital and then gaslit and told I'm faking and attention seeking and medication seeking. And then they scratch their heads. And I'm like, there's nothing you can do for this. No treatment, no medication. And
You're
despite
still
all this,
you're
despite
still
having
told?
a history of
Yeah.
epilepsy, a stroke, all these
Yeah.
things, like
You're still a
still,
faker. You're
I am,
still a faker?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
What does a person have to be to not be a faker is my question. Like what does a person, what actually has to happen? Like the things that happen to your brain, the two big ones, epilepsy, stroke. Those are the two biggest things that we think about happening to someone's brain,
Yep.
right? And you're still labeled as an attention seeker. Even though like those are like the worst things that could happen to somebody's a TBI. That would be the other one. But I mean a stroke is a TBI.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And
but like
insurance is denying me mental health and physical therapy, and according to their guidelines. So that conversion disorder is still on my record. And I think,
it's the
yeah,
worst thing. It's the worst thing on your record right now. That is the worst thing on your record. Yep.
And yet here we
Mhm.
have functional, like synthetic brain injury after synthetic brain injury after synthetic brain injury. 33 drugs that likely caused more brain injury.
and genetic testing is not foolproof.
No, I'm glad you said that, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
saying that,
Mhm.
because we get arguments on this all the time with people.
But with black box and having genetic testing done gives me that power of informed consent. Now I think I forget how 19 medications. There's only 3 that I know of, and I am taking and I'm tapering off because I just want to be off of everything. Of those 3, I'm already on 2 of them, and so that, and then insurance wants me.
That's a whole separate
Yeah.
episode,
No,
Sarah,
we're
on
not
insurance
wasting our life
alone.
talking about insurance.
No.
No,
Back
it's a joke.
to after I was discharged from rehab, and I was sent back to the same psychiatric hospital for more abuse, neglect. I only got 1 shower in 14 days. And then the biggest one, when I was discharged, they were, I lost all mobility instantly when I got there. I think the PTSD from all this re-triggered everything, lost all mobility. So I was in a wheelchair again for 14 days, had to urinate in my wheelchair. But at discharge, in order to be discharged, I had to ambulate. So I can go to the homeless shelter. I lost my apartment. My career is just down the tubes. I haven't been able to work for 2 years now. After 20 years, my strength is basically lost. But when I got in that van, I had a seizure, and then they wanted me to do the same thing at the homeless shelter. Luckily, somebody had common sense to get a wheelchair, and so I didn't have to do that. But yeah, they were gonna force me to walk from the unit to the van to be discharged. And then not only that, they were like scurrying around trying to figure out what to do with me because the homeless shelter was like, this is a liability. This is,
Yep.
all the legal stuff,
Yeah.
which I get. And I am thankful for them. They helped me um, transition back to the hospital and got me with another rehab, got my mobility back in order. But I that was just unnecessary. For why force somebody to ambulate? And then they were going to tell me, oh, we made a mistake discharging you. You have the option to go to the homeless shelter, or you have the option to come back in with us. And I'm like, bull fuck.
Yeah. So, Sarah, for people who are listening to this here, what do you want? What's your message that you want people to know? And I know that's a hard thing to say here as we wrap up, and to try to put it into like a Reader's Digest version, because there's a lot to this story. But what's your message to people, Sarah? What do you want people to take away from this?
You have to remember, realistically, you see psychiatrists for 1 unit, which is more than likely 7.5 minutes. But if you are lucky, 15 to 22 minutes. When you are a healthcare provider who accepts insurance, most likely they are watching the clock. And like, as a massage therapist, I worked at a job, and we had a point person that would go around scratching on the door.
Yep.
But
Sure.
If you saw this doctor 1 time a month to manage these drugs, that is only 90 minutes to probably 3 hours annually. So do your math. If it doesn't make sense, if your math ain't mathing with this, it's not worth your time.
Yeah.
Go find something else to do, go find another second opinion.
Yeah.
And
To me, and I just because we need to wrap up today's episode,
yeah,
unfortunately, I think this is another episode on regaining your
yeah,
agency. Because it appears that so much of ourselves is given up to somebody else to make decisions for, to tell us what to do, to tell us where to go, to tell us what's real in our lives, to tell us what's not real in our lives. Regaining the sense of self
Yeah.
and understanding that you also have a lot of knowledge. You're literally the only one who has knowledge about what's going on in your own body. You can describe those things. To not take the dismissal of this is a psychiatric issue and a psychiatric issue only,
Yes.
when I think you knew better. I think you absolutely knew that it wasn't, but nobody was there to listen. And so if you're a provider listening to this episode, this is an exercise in listening.
yeah.
This is an exercise in validating lived experience, listening, and digging further than just being a psychological hammer finding a
One
nail.
more thing,
So,
I am
mhm.
trying to make a petition bill on change.org, the TRUBE Act, and that is going to change. I want this to change because this shouldn't have ever, ever, ever happen. And it leads into suicide and death, premature death. And I want a change to happen. I'm doing this in memory of my mother, who was a psychology, and she would be just flabbergasted at what happened to me. And so I want change. If we're going to make healthcare, you know, great again, let's do it. Let's do it the right way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming
Well-
on the show, Sarah. Thank you for sharing your story with us. It's been an honor to have you on here, and I know it's not the easiest thing in the world to sit here for an hour even and do this, and you're doing it. So thank you for being here. For those of you, if you made it to the end, you've been listening to the Gaslit Truth Podcast. If you would like to send us your Gaslit Truth stories, you can do that at the Gaslit Truth Podcast at gmail.com. You can also find us anywhere that you listen to podcasts, and we are on all the socials. Give us the 5 stars. Let us know what you think of the show. And thank you again, Sarah, for coming on.
You're welcome.
I want to add one more thing to our listeners. Please head on over to change.org and support the TRUBE Act. TRUBE, sorry, TRUEB is how it's spelled, correct? Okay, so when you're looking for it, that's how it's spelled. So change.org. Thanks for being here.